Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SYA Admissions Google Chat tonight. I'm Kate Martell, the Admissions Marketing Manager, and joining me, I have a few guests. Do you want to introduce yourself, Donna?
Sure. My name is Donna Fitzgerald. I'm an Assistant Director of Admissions, but I'm also a parent of an SYA China alum. My daughter Karina went to SYA China a few years ago and had a wonderful experience, and I'm happy to be here tonight.
Thanks, Donna.
And I'm Rachel Keegan-Kelly, the Director of Admissions, and I'm happy to be here this evening.
And I'm Leah Larry, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Coordinator, and I'll be watching all of your questions that come through in our chat.
Right, so like Emily said, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. Tonight we're going to have Dee Dee and Rachel answer some of our most frequently asked questions, and then we will hand it over to you guys. So if you have questions, put those in the chat box, and we will do our best to answer those at the end. So Rachel, if you could just give us a little bit of an intro to SYA for those parents who might just be learning about us.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. Many of you are fairly familiar with School Year Abroad at this time, as you've submitted an application or your child has. But I did want to take just a couple of minutes and go over some of what we call the SYA ABCs. So we are a study abroad program for juniors and seniors. We have programs in 4 countries: France, Spain, Italy, and China, with a fall semester program available in China. All of the other programs are 9-month-long programs, and we are very much committed to that philosophically. We're a program that is actually celebrating its 50th anniversary this summer. It was 50 years ago that our first program started in Spain, and we have been going strong ever since. And we have over 7,000 alumni across the country now who've graduated from our many programs. We're a very academic program, first and foremost, but there are so many other things that you get from attending our program for the year beyond just strong academics. There's a very strong host family program, the strong relationships, the friendships, the travel, and the adventure that our students enjoy over the course of 9 months. Again, we've been doing it for a long time. So we're going to hit on some of the highlights of what make SYA unique tonight, and then we'll also have an opportunity for you all to ask some questions as well. So I just want to welcome everyone and thank you for coming.
Thanks. Thanks, Rachel. So Donna, as a parent of an SYA alum, do you want to talk a little bit about what makes School Year Abroad so special?
Sure. So School Year Abroad is really unique, I found, because it has its own schools with its own faculty and carefully chosen host families. So unlike other programs, in which my daughter had also participated in a small experience, she wasn't just dropped into another school system somewhere. This is a really close-knit community of faculty, staff, a resident director, and the host families, as I say, that really keep in close communication and kept in communication with me as well. So I felt really, comfortable having her go abroad. She was in China, she was in Beijing. I mean, I had never been there. She had never been, and it could have been a really scary experience for us, but it was an absolutely amazing experience. And I felt really comfortable letting her go. And so it's a really close-knit group of people that she worked with and lived with. And her host family, I could go on and on.
Well, that's a good segue actually into my next question, which was about host families, because definitely one of our most frequently asked questions. Donna, do you want to talk a little bit about your daughter's experience with her host family? And then Rachel, could you talk about how that process works?
Sure. So my daughter's host family, they were really lovely. I had the opportunity to meet them last summer when I traveled to Beijing with Karina, and just so welcoming. I can't even, it's hard for me to even describe this wonderful dinner that I had with them, because it was just so amazing that they were able to, I don't speak Chinese, but they were speaking to me, telling me about my daughter and their body language and just their excitement. I could feel it, and somehow I understood what they were saying. And it was just, she keeps in touch with them. They're just wonderful, wonderful people. And they hosted actually summer students, SYA summer students as well. So they, of course, told my daughter that she was their favorite, but I don't know if that's just because I was there. But just really great people that taught her so much too. She went to weddings with them. She traveled with them. They were just really great.
Great. So Rachel, do you want to talk a little bit about the host family process and how that works, not just in China, but in each of our countries?
Right, yeah. So it's a very thoughtful process that we have in place. When a student is enrolled, both parents and students are sent a questionnaire where you're given the opportunity to share all the really important information that you need us to know and want us to know. Everything from food allergies to certain habits and desires. If you want to make a certain type of request, we cannot guarantee and meet all host family placement requests, such as I'd like a sister exactly my age, a host sister, but we do take those things into account as best we can while we're going through the matchup process. So we use that, we use the parent questionnaire, we use the student questionnaire, we read your applications very closely, and each school has a host family placement coordinator who is on staff, and it is their primary responsibility to know all of these host families and do the placement and monitor the whole host family program through the entire year. So students are matched up with their families. They meet their families on the day they arrive in the country. And when those families greet those students, they are welcomed into that family for the entire year. They become part of that family. They are not boarders in any way. They are part of the family. They're with them on the weekends, the holidays. And that's really when it all starts. And the number of stories I have heard over the years I've been doing this of host families that the relationships have endured for decades. And there are even some host families whose children now are considering being host parents. So it's been a process that takes a fair amount of time, but is a very thoughtful process. So you can definitely trust to know that it's something we've been doing for a long time, and we've been doing a great job at it. So
thank you. So Donna, do you want to talk a little bit about what if a student wants to participate in extracurriculars when they're abroad? What type of opportunities?
Well, there's so many, and I know that SYA in each country, offers lots and lots of extracurricular activities, but each country, as Rachel mentioned, has a local activities coordinator, and it is that person's sole job to help students find an interest in, be it a sport or an art class or music, a musical instrument. And so they really did a great job. My daughter actually, she played the violin here in the States and in her school. And when she went abroad, she took up the arhu. They actually brought in a whole group of musicians into the classroom, and they all played their instruments, and the students were just really pretty amazing. I got to see it this summer when I was there too. And these really interesting instruments. So she played the arhu there. She took lessons right there at SYA and came home with the arhu, own one. Yeah, it stands in our living room there, propped up. But she did that. She also taught English to migrant workers, and she did that, I think she did it on Saturdays, and she actually went back to Beijing later after SYA, and she continued to do this too, again, but at this time she was offered, it was a paid position, but she did it, she volunteered to do it with SYA. So lots of great opportunities to do some community service work.
And a great chance to try something that's out of your comfort zone maybe, or do something new, but also opportunities at each of our schools to continue doing something that you might be doing now at school. So Dawn, you were talking about earlier when you were talking about what makes SYA special about the communication, and do you want to talk a little bit about the support and the communication in regard to the college process?
Sure, yeah, so at each SYA school, there's an academic advisor and a college counselor, and that college counselor keeps in touch with the college counselor back at the home school. So my daughter had her her college counselor back at her school that stayed in touch. She was able to take SAT prep while she was there, took PSATs, SATs. I do know that students also can take the AP exams, and not in China, they cannot take the ACT in China, but it is offered in all the other schools. So each school is a registered test site. So local students will actually come to SYA schools to take the standardized tests if they're thinking about applying to universities in the US. So it's really convenient. It's a big support system there. And I found the SAT prep to be great.
Great. Thank you. So Rachel, a big part of SYA is travel. Do you want to talk a little bit about the different travel opportunities that students have when they're at SYA throughout the year?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, travel is a big piece of it. If you like to travel, you will have an opportunity to do a lot of it on our programs. I like to describe our travel program, and there are several different types of travel that you will experience while you're on our program. The first piece is really the school trips. And there are school-wide trips in all 4 of our countries where you travel with your entire class. Each school has about 60 to 65 students. And you will travel with your entire class and teachers on typically a week-long trip to different parts of the country. And that is all included in the tuition, where students head out on buses and stay in hotels and travel with the faculty and learn a lot about, really sort of integrate a lot of their coursework into the field opportunities. The second type of travel is class travel. So there are several classes that have special trips associated with them. Last year in Spain, in our history class and an English class went to Paris. This year we have in France, our international relations class in Italy and France are meeting together in Milan. So the different classes will do trips with that class and that teacher, and it depends on the class that you're taking. So those are the 2 sort of education travel opportunities. The third opportunity is independent travel, which is available in all of our countries, newly in China, and not probably done quite as much as across Europe, because in China there's a little bit more educational travel as part of the program. But obviously when you're living in Spain and Italy and France, there's a lot to see around that particular country. Independent travel is an earned privilege that students have the right to participate in, typically starting end of November, early December. And that is really, if you talk to anyone who's graduated from our programs, that is truly one of the most memorable pieces of what students take with them from SYA. Now those trips have to be done very carefully. Students have to draft an itinerary before they go, where they're going to stay, what train they're going to take, where exactly they're going. And their host family has to sign off on that. Their US family has to sign off on that. And so does the resident director. So that they're very carefully monitored. And they may not go alone. And they must go in small groups with friends. Not large groups, but small groups. So those are basically the big travel opportunities. The fourth is an extracurricular travel opportunity, which is available in certain countries. If you are, for example, in France, some of our students participate in Model UN, and they have an opportunity to go with that club and a faculty advisor to the Model UN conference, and wherever that's hosted. It may be hosted in Luxembourg, or there's also another conference that they go to in France that's similar to a Model UN conference. And different clubs have some travel opportunities associated with them as well. So we basically say by the end of that year, you will know the country that you've been living in very well. You're not just going to know the city that you've been living in.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So Donna, how did you stay in touch with Karina when she was in China? And how can parents stay in touch with their kids when they're abroad?
Well, I will say I knew going into this that it was best to not, hover over her and kind of let her, this be her experience, and try to hold myself back a little bit and not try to call all the time or whatever. So I did have to actually wait for her to call me. She had what she called her Chinese phone, and when she got there, the teachers helped her go shopping, and she got this, just like a little flip phone, and then she bought a calling card and with minutes on it, and she would call me. And so she would call me sometimes when she was walking to school, with the time difference, it was my evening, and she would say, hi, just crossing the street now, I'm walking to school, and we'd chat, and it was great. I loved it, but I never really knew exactly when she was going to call. She would just kind of randomly call, and then occasionally we would Skype. And it was during like a free period of school, and she'd use the internet there, and we'd Skype a little bit, and we'd send little inboxes, messages to each other. But I felt that we kept in close touch, but at the same time, I gave her that chance to have her independence and not feel like I was there all the time with her. So it was great. It worked for me.
And Rachel, if parents want to visit, when's an appropriate time that parents can visit their child?
Yeah, so we do have many parents who have the opportunity to visit, and we're happy to host those families and tour them around the school. Most families come around the holidays. We really discourage travel to visit your child prior to that time, just because there is quite an adjustment period. But that doesn't mean it's still, we always say sometimes parents just happen to be traveling by, and we're happy to have them do that, but we certainly don't encourage that. So typically the holidays or spring break is also another wonderful opportunity to come visit. We do have a strong recommendation that students do not leave the country to come home for the holidays. We really recommend that they stay local. That's really when the language piece really starts to kick in. And if you do leave and go home, you typically lose quite a bit of the language acquisition that you've worked so hard to attain by the holidays. So, but we have many families that come, but we also have many families who are not able to come over the year, and that is completely fine. Again, they have a wonderful, loving host family that they're staying with. So,
yep, thank you. So we're going to open it up to questions from you guys at this point. We've already had a couple of questions, so if you have questions, you can put them in the chat box, and we will do our best to answer them all this evening. We've already had one question. Rachel, if you could answer, what about health insurance while students are abroad?
So students the tuition covers health insurance. It's MedX. It's what most folks have while they're studying abroad. And that covers is a pretty comprehensive insurance plan. What is also probably worth just noting is kind of what if your child is sick. I think of it as kind of two types of sick. If you might have a cold or need to go to the doctor and get some medicine, definitely the host family is going to help you there, but also the resident director. We have one doctor that we go to and knows our students. So that happens. Like I said, if you've got a chest cold or you need an antibiotic, and then if something does more serious happen, you need to go to the emergency room. The resident director is notified, or to the hospital is notified, and will take you to the hospital.
Thanks. Emily, what else do we have coming in off of the chat?
Sure, we have a lot of questions about host families. So here's a good one that says, do the host families communicate with students in their native language, or do they speak in English?
They speak in the native language. And my daughter's host family spoke very little English. My daughter's Ba, her dad, spoke zero English. He spoke only in Mandarin to her. And her mom knew enough that if she had to get a point across and need to communicate, she could. But the host families are encouraged to speak in the host language and not speak English to the students. And it really makes a difference in the students' fluency at the end of this, because they're forced to use their language skills, and it really works. I know that when my daughter went back to visit, even, you know, when her Mandarin was amazing, but even when she'd have, you know, trouble with the word, you know, he would say, her Ba would encourage her to, you know, no, think it out, you know, don't look it up on it, you know, you can do this, you know, and actually what's pretty amazing is they spent a lot of time together having dinner, because her mom would maybe be doing an activity with her younger host sibling, and so my daughter and her host dad would go out to dinner a lot, and he didn't speak any English, and she said we actually spoke about politics quite often. It was amazing. I said, wow, you know, and she said we had some really amazing discussions, you know, so together.
Yeah, that's great.
It works, stuff happens.
Donna, we have another question for you. It's another great question. It says, Donna, what was the most significant challenge your daughter expressed in adjusting to transition to a new culture for such an extended period of time? And then what did she find useful in terms of support from SYA and the teachers?
I think that, you know, the first couple of weeks is really a big adjustment period. And I think that, you know, you're living in someone else's home. They don't speak English. You're eating different foods, and I wouldn't say that she was a picky eater, but she was exactly adventurous. So when it was her birthday, and while she was there, and her mom served her, instead of birthday cake, they make a special dinner, and it was a fish rolled up with the bones in it, you know. And I think that was a little difficult for her, but she got over it. And when I returned to Beijing,
But appreciated the gesture.
Oh, absolutely.